This ensemble is an 18th century Italian informal gown and waistcoat, also known in English as a banyan. In Italy, it would have been called a zimarra e sottomarsina. This would have been one of the most luxurious and unique informal gowns in Europe because it was tailored in Italy, but it is made of a silk that has been woven in China. Informal gowns were very popular for men in the 18th century. They looked to us a bit like a modern dressing gown, but they were made of much more expensive and decorative fabrics. They would have been worn over day wear rather than night clothes, and they had more of a public presence. For example, a gentleman would wear an informal gown when all his gentleman friends came over to visit in the morning. In 18th century Europe, Chinese design was very popular, it was very admired and much desired. So a garment like this would have been very, very precious to its wearer. The silk was intended to be a dragon robe to be worn at the Chinese imperial court. To understand this garment in greater depth, we need to look more at what a dragon robe is and how it was translated into a European garment.
Dragon robes were adopted as a standard court attire by the imperial families and also government officials during the Qing dynasty, which is dating from the mid-17th century to the early 20th century. Government officials usually wore the dragon robe under waist-length jackets or long outer coats. Here is an example of an 18th century dragon robe made for a member of the imperial family. So you can see the dragon robe has a T-shaped cut and the body fairing out to the hem. It has a round neck, a very long sleeves, and the cuff is made in the shape of horse hoof. It has a side opening with the loops and the buttons fastened together. The dragon is front-facing, is tracing a flaming pearl, and the background is filled with clouds. You can see under the overlap is fully decorated with another dragon and sea waves. And because this is made for a member of the imperial family, that's why it's highly decorated. So because this dragon had 5 claws, we know that it was made either for the emperor or a member of the imperial families or the nobles. For government officials, the dragon only has 4 claws, and they can only wear blue color for the dragon robe. The banyan was made in blue color, and the dragon also only have 4 claws, so we know that it's made for an official. So you can see this area of greens are actually made of peacock feather thread. Peacock feather threads are made of Bruris green silk and twined with real peacock feather filament, and they can be used for weaving a dragon robe or for embroidered onto a dragon robe. They are really, really luxurious material. This red embroidered silk is the uncut fabric for making a dragon robe. The design could be woven or embroidered to shape. You can see from the seam here, 2 lengths of fabric are stitched together at the center to form the body and the upper sleeves of the dragon robe. A shorter silk panel is stitched to the central front to form an overlap. This is for the fastening piece to the right, and you can see the curve is to indicate where the fastening, the buttons, will be located. Dragon robes are always decorated with 9 dragons. 9 dragons symbolize the supreme power of the emperor. You can see 4 dragons are surrounding the neckline and 4 more above the seaways. The 9th dragon is hidden underneath the overlap.
Seeing an example of a dragon robe before it's been made up as a flat textile is very helpful for understanding how one of these garments was transformed into our banyan. We can see that the Italian tailor has followed the shape of the dragon robe as much as possible. He's cut through this extraordinary decoration very, very little and respected the shape that's been woven in. But he wasn't familiar with the idea of a side opening, so he made an alteration there. And that is that he unpicked the front seam in order to give a center front opening, which was more common in European tailoring. He actually divided our dragon in two, which is something I'm sure a Chinese tailor would not approve of. And then he very carefully sewed the right front to the right sleeve, cutting around the decoration. You can just see this seam very discreetly running through there. And then he added a few more European features, such as this collar, the little button. Again, most informal gowns in Europe had cuffs of some sort, and so he's inverted the horse hoof cuff. Instead of going over the hand like we saw in the dragon robe, he's turned it round and turned it back. And he also added a belt, again, which was quite standard for European gowns. And of course, gentlemen needed pockets, so he made the pocket flaps out of the plain fabric. And as we can see in the example that's not made up, there's lots of plain fabric around the decorated areas, and this is what the European tailor has made the most of. So the real genius of tailoring was the creation of the waistcoat. So after the tailor had cut through the center front and then seamed it at the shoulder, there's a piece underneath that we saw in the dragon robe that hadn't been made up. That was left over, and that is what the tailor used to create the front of the waistcoat. Now, traditionally, men's waistcoats have the decoration around the hem and up the front, and so he's very carefully cut out the pieces so that he gets the maximum amount of decoration. And if you look closely at the pockets and at the side skirts, he's pieced it very, very finely. So he's got the maximum of the woven decoration in all elements of the waistcoat front, including the buttons here. And then he made the sleeves and the back of the waistcoat out of the blue satin, the undecorated part of the flat textile. This extraordinary ensemble has been a wonderful opportunity for us to collaborate to try and solve the mystery of it. So we know that this fabric was intended for an official at court, including perhaps a foreigner, an Italian diplomat, or an artist. It's a very, very luxurious example, even if not made for a member of the imperial family. So we don't know the identity of the mystery visitor to China in the 1750s, but he must have been extraordinarily well regarded by the emperor to have been given this beautiful textile.